Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today, we are doing a very special episode. There's been news abound this week that was completely unexpected for us. And I'll just go ahead and say that this is full spoilers for all of the Game of Thrones TV seasons and for the A Song of Ice and Fire books. And I have a little bit of the World Giant Table book behind me. I remember nothing from it, so I don't know if spoilers are available for that, but just all published, all TV show episodes. But before we get into that, I want to welcome to the channel for the first time Amber from the Road to Tar Valon podcast. How are you?
Hello, hello. So excited. I don't get a lot of opportunity to talk about A Song of Ice and Fire, especially because we mainly cover just Wheel of Time stuff. But I think I'm more like you in the fact that A Song of Ice and Fire was really my first big fantasy series that kind of like launched me into the genre. So this is the first book series where opened it up and then didn't stop. Weeks, and then eventually you get to the ends and you got the last book and you're just like, well, I guess, it can't be too long until the next one comes out. And here we are.
It's been half of my
But
life ago.
yeah, yeah. So, we actually, my story with A Song of Ice and Fire kind of correlates to like where we are with our podcast for Road to Tarvalin, because after I kind of got sick of waiting for Winds of Winter, I was doing some Googling and thinking, what big fantasy series should I read next? And one that always comes up is Robert Jordan's A Wheel of Time. And I thought, oh, yeah, okay, like definitely. And this was years ago. So after like looking that up, I had seen comments where it's like, well, it's not finished yet. So Robert Jordan's dead and it might not ever get an end. So I was like, no, I'm not putting myself through that again after waiting all of this time for the Winds of Winter. And I think it just happened to be a coincidence that I stumbled upon some comment somewhere on the internet about Brandon Sanderson finishing the series. And that's when I actually picked up Wheel of Time. And then that led me to our podcast journey with Tracy for our Road to Tarvalon podcast. But I wouldn't have gotten there if it weren't for A Song of Ice and Fire. So
Yeah, A Song of Ice and Fire, I began back in 2011 because I'd read Lord of the Rings by that point, and I was just rereading that, a lot, and had read the Percy Jackson books, and that's about it in terms of fantasy. But with A Song of Ice and Fire, my world history teacher kind of overheard me talking about Lord of the Rings and was like, hey, you should check out Game of Thrones, the TV show. That's basically like the adult version of Lord of the Rings. Although I think Lord of the Rings is plenty adult enough. It's just hidden. And I was like, okay. And that was actually one of the first TV shows I ever pirated. And they were always angry about pirates on Game of Thrones because they were like, stop it. Like, we need the viewership numbers. But if you looked
mhm.
at how many pirated downloads, I guess there was like millions. And it was like the top pirated show of all time for a while. And I remember watching the first episode and seeing Bran fall off the tower right at before the credits, and I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah,
And got the books for my birthday. I think I got the first four books because The Dance with Dragons had just
wasn't
come
out
out.
yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because my birthday is in October, so I don't even think the mass paperback was out yet. And so I got the first four books. It took me like 6 months to get into book one because I'd never read a long book before like that. Where Lord of the Rings is very much like there's still a lot happening, but with Game of Thrones, it's like every chapter is like a movie, it feels like sometimes. We have these big battles, great dialogue scenes, and all this stuff. And by the time I finished book one, the rest of the series was like a month or so to read because I just bulldozed through it, and I was done in 2012. Reread the books again immediately after, and then I still didn't notice a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and I discovered the Reddit for A Song of Ice and Fire server on in 2013, and that was when A Song of Ice and Fire reigned supreme in my life for
Yes,
about the
yes.
next 3 or 4 years, because every day there was a new theory with like
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it was so amazing. And it was around 2016 when there were rumors that, or I guess late 2015, there were rumors that eight or publishing, I guess, houses got the note to get ready for 2016 Winds of Winter. And I remember that was when everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. It's been 5 years. Like, it took him shorter than A Dance with Dragons. And New Year's came around and there was still no blog post. And apparently his ancient computer crashed and he didn't save any of his essays. And he had to rewrite everything. And he purposely saved the Winds of Winter announcement for the last, which was at like 4 a.m. my time. It was like 1 a.m. for him because he's in New Mexico, I'm in North Carolina. And he was like, "Yeah, sorry guys, it's not coming out before season 6. Season 6 is going to go way beyond what I've written. Get ready." And after that, I gave up and found Wheel of Time. Got up to Nog, which is not spoilery enough, but I got up to him and I said, "No, I'm not doing this," and I picked up Brandon Sanderson instead. And of course, I read all of his books, and then I was back at looking for more books by Brandon. I was like, okay, he finished The Wheel of Time. I'll read that, and here I am. And it's been 11 years since I finished my first round of A Song of Ice and Fire. And we just got news this week, if you're still kind of confused about what we're talking about. George has finally written an entire long blog post just about Winds of Winter. He's never done that since like 2011, 2012. And it
I'm
is
still
insane.
shocked. I'm
I
still shocked.
What was your first reaction like seeing that?
Well, at first I thought it was going to be satire. Like someone, I mean, people on the internet, it's very common for people to kind of like poke at George, like, oh, he's so slow, it's never going to happen. I mean, yeah, okay. So when I first saw it, I was like, is this, no, is it? Could it be? And then, of course, kind of like combing through it, like speed reading through it to kind of like try and figure out what was going on. I'm like, okay, okay. And then I think you sent it to me, and then I was like, everyone come look at this right now. But I mean, if he's, so what it had said is that he's finished some of the major arcs for certain characters for the Winds of Winter. And to me, maybe it's just because of my completionist nature, but I can't picture him putting in all of that effort to get to the end of certain characters' story arc for that book and not finishing it. Like it just seems like way too much work to not, only get a third of the way through or halfway through and then just not finish it. So I have to say that this really makes me hopeful, but I'm also don't want to become too hopeful because that has been the past, 10, 11 years. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing, because there were kind of two posts that had gone up. The first one was his blog post. That was kind of like, hey guys, like I'm still working on this. I finished up the Tyrion chapters, which he's kind of like the central character of many different plot lines. And he's talked about the Miranese knot, which is all
Mhm.
about how just insanely impossible it is to get the timeline straight in Meereen and Essos, where Daenerys is. And he's talked about before how he and Daenerys won't see each other for most of the book. And I'm thinking now he's just going to like fast track that, because so much needs to happen in 2 books. And
Yeah.
basing off the show, like, I don't know how Bran, and this is my interpretation of the end of his arc of the show, is that he becomes like this all ruling, all knowing god that takes over. And they framed it in a happy way on the show, but I think with George, it's going to be the biggest gut punch of the world, and he's talked about his bittersweet ending. And I
Yes.
think it'll feel good that the stock's on top again, but it's going to feel really awful to see a 9, 10-year-old boy becoming like a horrible
God King.
god king, like a Lovecraftian entity, because he can just tap into trees and see everything he wants. So,
I mean, I feel like that fits so much better with his other like works of books. I mean, he's written horror a lot, and it feels so much more in line with how he's done other things. And I don't think that it's going to be this big happy ending. He has a bittersweet. And so, I mean, is George R. Martin's bittersweet different than my interpretation? Maybe. It could be a lot darker than what some people think bittersweet means, but there's so many there's so many unanswered questions, and I think that's one of the things that has made the book series so iconic is, like you said, like all of the theorizing and wondering how things are going to go. And there's so much potential for like big twists to happen. And I hope that if there's even a fraction of that, which I think there will be, I mean, they're going to be good. It has to be good.
yeah, and there are so many like things in the show that I know just won't happen for me.
Agreed.
And I think the big
Agreed.
one for me that I was thinking about recently, because Arya's storyline is totally different the moment she leaves Westeros. And I like they tried, and I remember when I think season 5 came out, and George hadn't published any sample not or chapters in a while, and they released it, and the first episode had Arya blind and doing her thing, and I remember like a lot of people were like, this is so different because she kills not Ilan Payne, but one of the King's Guard
Mm-hmm.
people.
And the mercy, are you talking about the mercy chapter for, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because on the show he's like a horrible like pedophile, but in the books,
Mm-hmm.
George was like he's not that. I mean, he is terrible, but in like different ways, and he's not comically evil. Like it was so
Right.
comical how evil this guy was on the show, and in the books, it's like here's the sample chapter. This was the original first Arya chapter after the 5 year gap. Here it is. Like here's my original draft of it that was done, and like it's totally different, guys. Please don't hate the books. Like you
Yeah,
guys
I
are in
mean,
good hands.
she's a child. Like she
Yeah.
is a child still, and she's basically offering sex up to this older man, gets him to follow her up to her room, and just, I mean, yeah, like she kills him. And to me, like the most interesting thing about that is this is not a part of her faceless man training, so to speak. Like, this isn't something that they told her to go do. So I'm curious about what like the reprimand will be. Does she get kicked out? I mean, what happens to her? Will her story get even darker? Will there be some type of punishment? Or does it kind of end up like the show where she just kicks rocks and leaves and goes back to Westeros? Because I can't see the faceless men having like this trained asset just like walk off, like
While they smile as she walks away. I'm a
right,
badass. Yeah. He's like, yes, you are.
right. Yeah, girl, go get it. Yeah. No,
No,
it's
that's
not going to
not.
be like that.
And there's going to be more than one guy. I mean, the kindly man is like one of my favorite side characters in Arya's
He
storyline. He's
scares
so
me so
creepy.
much. He
He's
scares me
so,
so much.
and I don't even care if we see Jaqen again, although we know from the books that he's at the Citadel where Samuel Tarly is. And I think a lot of people
He's
forget that. Like, he is
is
not
that
with Arya.
do you remember the name of the maester that he's
Oh.
is it no, it's not Marwyn, is it? No.
No, Marwyn's with the glass candles. He's hunting down the dragon egg or something, or how to awaken the dragon eggs. Jaqen
Yeah.
is, because he's asking about it to the Maester, and then he takes his identity, and he's
And
just hanging
then
out.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
scary, like, and Euron is on the way. He is so much better in the books. Oh my god.
I'm still not over what they did to Euron on the TV show. I mean, like they made him very like Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean kind of like kitschy and like jokey, and I'm like, no, like this man is a monster. He's probably arguably the scariest, most, I mean, just dark characters in the series, I think. And like on the TV show, it's just like, oh no, no, that's not. I don't know. Maybe target audience didn't like scary Euron, but what they did was just, oh, still not over it. Still not
It
over
was
it.
pure sacrilege. I
Yeah.
mean, I've read some really scary theories about him where he's on his way to Old Town so he can blow the horn and summon like a kraken from the deep, because we've had a couple little hints that there's a huge kraken out in the ocean. We get like 3 mentions throughout the entire series, like, hey, there's a big kraken off the coast somewhere, and it sunk an entire ship. Like, someone should do something about
Hmm.
that. It's like, oh, we're not going out there. And
Yeah.
I read a theory where he was going to sacrifice Aaron, his brother, and
Right.
summon.
Aaron, I think, is left off tied to the mast of the ship with a pregnant woman with her tongue cut out. And is that okay? Tell me if I'm right. The theory is that he's been killing pretty much everyone that he comes in contact with up until this point for like such a for an extended period of time, and like draining their blood, and then he's gonna like chum the waters and like summon this, evil hellscape of krakens to like help him make it out of, I can't remember, he's in like a strait. Like he's in a certain section of the sea where he has one fleet on one side and another fleet on the other, I think. And so like this would be his way out, is like summoning forth nightmare creatures, and I'm for it.
Oh,
Totally
yeah.
for
And
it.
the next part of the theory that I love is that he's going to basically sink and destroy Old Town and use that as a blood sacrifice to summon
Okay.
up like the most horrible creatures like ever. And I want it all. I'm still ashamed with what they did and
Well,
pissed about it.
I mean, I think we have this in common too. Like we like kaiju movies and stuff like that. So anytime you can bring in like some huge, scary creature that just terrorizes and breaks stuff, like I'm all for it. So like if there's more of that in any way, yes. The ice dragons never really like, I know some people are really excited about that. I think it would be cool, but again, like I don't think it'll be so much like the TV show, and I would expect it to be a little bit more scary, more eerie, but
Yeah, he said that this is going to be the darkest book yet. And a lot of dark things have happened already.
mhm.
And he said that he's going to be killing off a lot of people, which I've heard some people say that that's what the bittersweet ending is about, is that although, yeah, they won the battle against the others, everyone died because of it. And I completely disagree with that. I think it's going to be omniscient Bran at the end, ruling everyone with an iron fist because he's a little boy who doesn't know anything about
Yeah.
ruling. So,
I mean, he's essentially a little boy who, I mean, he was like his mother's pride and joy. Like, Catelyn loved all of her kids, but she really, like, Bran was her favorite. And he's lost his mother. His mother is now a bloated water zombie. Like, I don't know exactly how to describe Lady Stoneheart, but I mean, how I mean, this is really dark. I mean, and since he does know all and he's seeing all right now, he's, connected to the werewood. Like, does he know his mother is out there in this state that is currently not really his mother anymore? Like, that for one is really, really dark. And I can't see that boding well for him, like, as far as what his emotional state is, but he's also becoming less human, I feel like, and more of this kind of like godlike creature where is he going to be a wrathful god? Is he going to be I mean, I don't think so, but I don't think he's going to be someone who just watches and doesn't take part in anything. And I mean, we've had so many hints as far as like what's going on with other characters. Like, I believe the crows in one of the last Stannis chapters are screaming trees, trees. And like you have to question, like, is Bran communicating right now through the crows to try and get other people to do his bidding, or like what is going on? So much good stuff.
yeah, I was thinking while you were talking what would be the first Bran chapter, and what if, because in the show they just took him out of season 5, which I'm still upset about. But my thought is because he can see the world, and the
Mhm.
show refused to do flashbacks, so instead they had Bran as this tool to kind of show past events. What if the first chapter is like a smash cut of Robb and Catelyn getting killed, and him witnessing that, and then we see Jon Snow getting killed, and all these other events involving his family. Like, what if that's the first chapter and he just goes crazy and just, like, I don't know.
I think there's huge potential. I mean, as soon as we get any type of like real confirmation that he's being able to like see things in the past, I would assume it's going to be something like very traumatic like that, even if it's not his immediate like family, like brothers and sisters. But there's also, I mean, I don't know if the Hodor thing is going to play out exactly like it did. I mean, I think it's going to be close on some level, but that in itself is like extremely traumatic, especially because I think that Hodor is kind of like, I mean, he has the mentality of a child, really, and Bran has grown up with this character and this figure in his life. So, him causing like the pain of this person who pretty much has the IQ of a child, like, and him reliving that and going through, like, oh my gosh, like, this was me, I did that. That is another thing that I think could be something that like sets him off. But I would also kind of say that Hodor is almost like extended family in that sense where they've grown up together. So, yeah, like I agree. It could definitely be something like reliving the death of his mother and brother, or a death that has happened but has not yet happened, because the time paradox is really wonky with Hodor. But yeah, yeah.
And one thing that I have been I've been convinced of this theory forever, and I hate how they did it in the show. The Red Wedding 2.0, and how Arya is the one who does it, and they
Mm,
threw in the Frey pie stuff from
hmm.
Dance with Dragons, which they did like half a second of, like, oh, you're eating your cousins and whatever. But in the books, like everything with Winterfell is so much better. But I've always subscribed to the theory that Lady Stoneheart would carry out Red Wedding 2.0, and
Yeah, I mean, she's
Arya has
all
to stop it or
vengeance.
something. Yeah, because they
Yeah,
basically just combined her with Arya in the show, which is an interesting
yeah.
idea, but they really did not tap into the traumatic fact that she's like a baby. It's like
Right,
she's doing all
right.
these horrible things. Like,
And it kind of got a little too like rah rah for me. Like, I don't want to be cheering on a child who has become a murderer, but they framed it in a way like where it felt like I was supposed to be really cheering for her, which I mean, it's always fun to see, a bad guy get their comeuppance, and the phrase are just awful weasel men. But not all of the people that she killed took any part in what happened to her family. And I mean, I can't believe that there weren't, some kitchen girl, walking around being like, "Excuse me, miss, is that a foot that you're putting into the pie?" Like, was the kitchen totally empty where she was just in there cooking things up? It doesn't make very much sense
I
to
just cleaned
me.
that pot. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like everything. I mean, I didn't like really season 5 and on at all. Didn't plan on watching it because I was reading the leaks and I was like, oh god, so this is gonna be so bad. I'm not like, maybe there's a chance, but I think with Bran, the Tower of Joy stuff, that's the only way that stuff is going to be communicated about Jon Snow's parentage. I want Howland Joy or Howland Reed to show up because he has an entire moving swamp castle and his
This
kids are with Bran. Like, come on, get back involved. And
That's one of the locations I'm most excited for. I need to see it. I need it to be described from someone like there personally seeing it. I want to know what it looks like, and I want to know about the magic of the reeds and the magic of their castle. And I mean, if it is magic, it could be explained by some other circumstance. But yeah, the reeds are really, really fascinating.
there's some, because I don't know if it's like confirmed fact, but Jojen is basically a paste right now in the books, and Bran is eating him unknowingly. And I mean, it's like 99% like confirmed that that's what's happening, but I read one theory how Bran is just going to use Hoda's body to rape Mira, and that's going to be his big turn to dark moment. And
I
then
hate that.
as they're running away, he's going to use Hoda, and we're just really going to hate Bran. And I I still think about that theory like every now and then. Well, I'm like, oh no, no, please don't let that happen. That would just kill me. But George
That's
has
so
said it's
scary,
gonna,
so
yeah,
terrifying.
because he hasn't hit puberty yet in the books. Like
Right.
not even factoring in the hormones that's gonna be running through him as he's battling the others at the Battle for Dawn or whatever it's called. Like, there's so many things that can go wrong in this book, and George has hinted that it's gonna go really wrong for everyone.
Yeah. I think I don't know, were there any specific characters that you're just like really excited to get back to?
Hmm. Uh, I think Stannis, because I feel like he's going to have a role in the bigger fight against the others. And for those who keep wondering what I'm meaning by others, it's the White Walkers. In the show, they called it White Walkers because they thought the others was too close to the Lost TV show with the
Hmm.
others on that island. But by calling it White Walkers, I think it now mixes it up with Walking Dead. I don't know. I thought The Others
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
great title for them, but there's still a lot for Stannis to do. I think George has confirmed that he's going to burn Shireen, but in totally
Hmm.
different circumstances because the way they did it on the show is like so uncharacter-like for Stannis because there are so many quotes of him in the books about how much he loves his daughter, and he didn't even bring them with him going to Winterfell to fight against the Boltons. And I think I've always subscribed more to the theory that Melisandre is going to sacrifice Shireen to bring back Jon Snow. And then I'm hoping we don't get any more POV chapters from Jon Snow. I do not want to know what is in his
You're
head.
done.
Like, because I love Jon Snow, but I think it would be so much scarier if we didn't even go to Winterfell for a while, like halfway through the book. And then our first chapter is a Melisandre chapter, and she's recounting resurrecting Jon Snow. She's like sitting in a chair talking to him, and he's like a vengeful zombie now because everyone killed him at the tower.
Right.
Or not the
I
tower, the
can't
wall.
picture him coming back and being okay.
He was
Like,
no difference on the show. And even in the show, I think he was only brought back, and the only thing they used was like, my watch is done. And like, that was it. And it was like, business as usual after that. And I was like, okay.
right. It was the way of getting him out of being in the Night's Watch. So be like, all right, like peace.
Because
All nice and tidy, wrapped up in a bow, just
just
like
get it
I
done.
don't know.
It felt like reading the, I don't want to be spoilery, but reading the prologue of The Gathering Storm. And there's a few things in there with Masima that I really feel like Brandon was like, wrapping it up, onwards we
Yeah.
go. Like, that
Yeah.
moment felt exactly the same as
Okay.
Jon
Yeah.
Snow being let loose of the watch. And plus, I don't know how the wall is going to be destroyed in the books. I think it's going to be an epilogue event. I think that's very obvious. It has to set up for a theme
Yeah.
of spring. But I have no idea, like, how.
Mm. I don't know either. You had mentioned Stannis, and I think like for me as well, that's one of those characters that I really want to get back to. I know that I think it's the Theon sample chapter where he's with Stannis and there's about to be a battle and they're outside this crofters village, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Stannis is acting very confident, I feel like, for someone who's starving to death and losing all their men and they don't have any horses. And he's kind of dragging Theon around. And Theon's sister has just shown up and is kind of trying to talk her way, it seems like, into like having Stannis free Theon, but it kind of ends up with her being like, oh, okay, well then like sacrifice him, then like kill him then. And there's, I think, this theory that Stannis's men are digging all of the holes in the ice so that the Freys will go through the ice and all of them die, which I think like as far as some of the battle tactics, I really appreciate those moments in the books where you get to see like how the battle is won via whether it's having the stronger army or using your wits or, you know, making a killing someone in the name of a god and hoping that god will kind of like carry you on into victory, stuff like that. So I'm really curious to get back with Stannis. I don't know what his end game will be, but I I think the show like they again like kind of just are like, oh, and Stannis's role is over now. That was quick and easy. Just Brienne takes care of him. But he has so much more to offer, I think.
Oh yeah.
And it's also like he's such a shrewd man. And I think that he's learned from the beginning with his rivalry with Renly was more loved and Renly had a better backing of the people. So Renly ended up with like the bigger, more devout army. And Stannis kind of goes off and now he's got a witch on his side, like helping him. So I feel like he's put all of this information now together and he's becoming a little bit more shrewd as a leader, but I just don't know like where he will end up. And I really like I want to see all of these big battle moments, even if they're not, super long. I think that I always get a little excited, like just when there's a new battle to be had, and there's so many like that should be coming up. We've got everything going on with Euron, everything going on with Stannis, everything going on in Marine. And yeah, like it's a lot of stuff.
Another thing, because we have no details on this because it never was done on the show, but Beric Dondarrion's plot along with Lady Snowheart, Jaime Lannister, all of
Yeah.
them. And one thing that I totally forgot about until now is that George did comment how the, I guess, I forgot what they're called. It's like the underlings of the others, the the mindless zombie ones.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
uh, because George was saying that it's like there's the great other, like there's a god against Azor Ahai in the books, and how the great other resurrected those zombies to come back and fight. But Beric Dondarrion is kind of like Azor Ahai's like walker, and when he confirmed that, I remember it just went nuclear because like, oh my gosh, like he is possessed by like some vengeful, like fire god. Like I don't know where he's gonna go in the books, and I do not at all acknowledge the stupid white hunt. Oh, the whites, that's what they're
Oh,
called. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
I hated, absolutely hated that, and the way they killed off Benjen, my favorite dude ever, who has so much mystery surrounding him. Like
That was dirty.
he witnessed Lyanna and Rhaegar escaping and was like, "Okay, I can't tell anyone about this because they'll kill Jon Snow. I'm going to the Watch. I'm just going to go here and live out my days because there's a great summation of Benjen's arc kind of storyline that talks about how he just one day decided to go to the Wall, and everyone was confused except for Eddard Stark.
Hmm.
And it was like it's obvious if you put all these different details together that Benjen also knew of Lyanna and Rhaegar's
Hmm.
relationship. And I want more with Benjen. I want to know where he is. And I hated how it was done in the show.
I think your Benjen is my Mance radar. Like
Oh my gosh.
there
I can't believe.
he this man knows something. Like there's no doubt in my mind. He's been hanging around in Winterfell pretending to be a bard. He's back beyond the wall. He was killed but not killed because the switch there was, I guess, what is it called? Melisandre, I think, did a glamour. So they
Yeah.
killed someone who was it Rattleshirt? I don't remember who it was that was
Yeah.
killed, but
It was one of the ladies, I think. Um,
I don't
something.
remember.
Yeah.
But um, then there's the mystery with the letter that was sent to John. Was it Stannis? Was it Mance Rayder? Was it someone else? But I really feel like Mance Radar was someone important and like Westerosi society, whether it be through bloodline or just being someone important through other people that he knows, because I feel like there's so much air of mystery around him that there has to be something going on with this guy. And I think that's one of those little things that have been like keeping me in the fandom, trying to read more theories and try and piece together. And there's a lot of like really out there theories that are really exciting and interesting. I think some people think he is one of Rhaegar's sworn men, and it was kind of the same situation where he actually knows what happened at the Tower of Joy, so he um, went beyond the wall to kind of like make sure that nobody knows the whole story in a similar manner to what Benjen did. I don't know, but the sky's the limit with this guy. He could be anyone and or no one at all and just be someone totally new that we learn about. So that's exciting to me.
I totally forgot that he existed. Until you said that. I've always liked the theory that he is like Rhaegar, but I don't think it's
Mm-hmm.
plausible. But I've always liked that theory because it's like, yay! Like I've always enjoyed hearing about Rhaegar. Like I've always known it's all been lies. And Barristan Selmy, who I want to see more of him, of course. Oh my gosh, he was done very dirty on the show, even behind the scenes. But
I felt so bad for that actor, even where I was like, man, can you imagine playing this just legendary badass and
was brought down
you
by
get,
like four thugs, like.
yeah, oof.
And the poor actor wrote like a long like plea to the directors, like please don't kill him, like there's so much more to be had with Barristan, like, and they mocked him and were like,
What?
I'm gonna kill him even harder, like.
Is that
And
real? I never heard about that. That makes me really
yeah,
angry.
there's an interview where they make fun of it. It's like, yeah, you even sent me a letter, and this, that, and we just wanted to kill him more, and everyone's like, ah, that's so funny, and I'm like,
That's
did y'all
awful.
hear
I hate
him?
that. I
Like,
hate that.
it was awful. But everything Barristan says about Rhaegar, that's like our first true look into Rhaegar. And he's like,
He
he was a
loved
badass. He
him.
loved
Yeah.
music. The people loved him. Like, it's a shame that like Robert killed him. It's like what Barristan says, which is the most pro Targaryen thing that has been uttered
Hmm.
in the series. Because Rhaegar's, or not Rhaegar's, Targaryens are hated in this world,
Right.
outside of Dorne. Which, what the hell is gonna happen with Dorne? They killed them off instantly and did nothing again.
Mm.
There was an unknown Dornish guy at the Great Council in the final episode,
Oh yeah,
and the
yeah.
actor was like, I don't know what my character's name was. Like, he's just a guy. I was there for like 2 hours.
Hmm.
Like, what's going on with Dawn?
The way that they've set up, is it Ariane? Is that the name of
Ariana Martell.
Ariana? Yeah. Um, the way that they've set up her character is really interesting. She's curious about wanting to know about Rhaegar and what he was like, and she's really into these kind of like bombastic warrior kind of asshole type men.
Area
And
Hotan.
then it's contrasted with Quentin, her brother, who they have this immense, well, it might even be one sided rivalry on her behalf, where it appears that, I think this is correct, Quentin was sent to carry favor with Daenerys because they were supposed to be married, and then Ariane or Ariana, however you want to pronounce it, was to be with Rhaegar, and then plot twist, Rhaegar is killed. So now, like, she's kind of like, well, what is my duty? What am I supposed to do? And Quentin may or may not be a pile of ash right now. Um, but it seems really odd that like Quentin had all of these chapters just to get like killed and like that's it. So either his story is important to her character, Ariana's down the line, or maybe he's not really dead. So many mysteries, so many mysteries. But I can't quite figure out exactly what her trajectory is going to be. Like, we know it's somehow probably going to end up with her getting to young Griff, Aegon at some point. And I could see that becoming another, I guess, problem for Daenerys, because if somehow she ends up with him, she has the backing of Dorne. Dorne is the only nation that is known to be able to kill dragons. So like if Daenerys shows up and we've got young Griff Aegon who's on the throne, and she's like, well, who cares? I have dragons. Like, she would be met with the Dornish, who could potentially take out the dragons, which would make sense if that's something that is really supposed to happen, because on the TV show, Dany forgot about the Iron Fleet and they killed her dragons. But the Dorne is a much more likely adversary, I feel like.
Yeah, I always thought the purpose of Quentin's storyline was like a reverse hero's journey, because his
Mhm.
plot is exactly like a, you know, young boy being raised and going to fight the big bad, and, traveling long distances to accomplish his mission. And he gets there and he's like, I'm gonna take her dragons for some reason. And he opens the door and he just immediately gets like torched, and the dragons
Mm,
go free. I think that's like the final chapter in Meereen. Is I think one of the Greyjoys is now in Meereen now. He wasn't in the show. Not Aaron or Euron, but somebody. And I apologize for the silence. I don't know what's going on, but
I was worried. I thought my neighbor was going to start drilling again today. I'm like, please don't be doing house repairs.
I always felt like the purpose of Quentin's story was that they were wanting him to hook up and marry Daenerys for the political favor, and then they
Mhm.
think, because we don't have any eyewitnesses, that Daenerys just burned him to death over some disagreement or something, and that
Right.
they would be like, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to this new guy, Aegon, and he's so much
Yeah.
cooler, and he actually knows like his histories and all this stuff.
Right. Right. He's like one of us, kind of.
Yeah, and I don't even know what they're going to do with Darkstar. Like, who is. We know nothing about him yet, and I have no
Uh,
idea where that's going. And he factors into the whole Tower of Joy stuff. Like, the Danes, oh my god.
mhm.
Untouched on the show, except for dual
Yeah.
wielding Arthur Dane.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm trying. Yeah. Okay. There's one plot line that I'm also really, really curious about and excited for, and that's all of Littlefinger's scheming in the Vale. And
I forgot that's where it
I,
left off.
yeah, I don't know what it is about Sansa, because she is so not my type of character. Like, I'm usually not drawn to like the Sansa type character, but for some reason, like I am just, it's like that Tyra Banks meme, like I was rooting for you, you know? Like there's something about her where I want her to become like her own person. I think maybe that's what it is. Like she's never been able to make her own choices, really, even though, I mean, the things that she wanted weren't realistic or good for her as a child. But there's so much scheming going on in the Erie right now that I just I can hear like alarm bells in my head where she's pretending to be Littlefinger's daughter, bastard daughter, Elaine, and um, Robin, her cousin, is it cousin?
Yeah, it's his
Okay.
mother's sister's son.
Okay. So Robin is this very sickly child, and pretty much like it's kind of like the unspoken thing that everybody knows he's going to die soon. So all of the Vale Lords are like trying to make a play, kind of, to see who's going to be sitting, at the head of the Vale and who's going to be in charge of the Erie. And so there's Littlefinger, who, I mean, try and pry that from his cold, dead hands. He's, sitting pretty nicely where he's at. And he's also, I think, from the Elaine chapter, appears to be doing some scheme with the grain prices where he's kind of like trying to convince the other lords that they should wait to sell because winter is coming and at some point nobody's going to have grain and this is when they can hike up their prices and just like clean everyone out, which is, I mean, it's Littlefinger, so that's
Yeah.
not unexpected. But so we've got that scenario going on. And then, oh, attorney. So,
Oh
love
yeah.
attorney. He's trying to make a winged guard for Robin, I believe. And there's a theory that this winged guard will actually just be pretty much hostages for Littlefinger from all the Vale Lords. That way, like he can keep everybody in check, which I mean sounds very Littlefinger like, but I expect this tourney to go horribly wrong. I expect something very, very bad to happen, and the outcome not being what Littlefinger had hoped or what Sansa had hoped. Oh, and I just forgot about what's his name? The heir. Harold.
Oh yeah,
Harold?
Harold.
Harry. Harry the heir. Um oh, okay. Like I'm just like it's all flat like flashing before my eyes. He's I think isn't he really standoffish and really awful to Sansa? Like you're a bastard, get away from me. And
Yeah.
then he sees her dancing with a bunch of the other squires and people that will be in the tournament. And at some point, after she dances with so many men, she's approached by Harry to dance, and she kind of like wows him with just being not what he expected from her. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, like there's so much potential for things to like go okay for Sansa, but also like horribly, horribly wrong. So I think I'm like really, really scared for her. And that's like a good sign when I think like a plot is going to be interesting.
Yeah. And there's one bit of that, I guess, region that wasn't mentioned yet, but the clan lords and all the clans hanging around
Yes.
because George
Yes.
confirmed that they're coming back eventually, and Tyrion promised them the Eyrie, and they talk about how
Yes.
impregnable and impossible to storm the Eyrie is, and I've always thought like, wouldn't it be amazing if like I don't know. I don't know how or why Daenerys would do this, but use a dragon to take over like an enemy
Yeah.
occupied area. And an area is where birds and, flighted creatures live. I think it
Right.
would be a perfect bow to wrap if a
Yes.
dragon took the area. And
Yes.
that's been my theory forever.
Well, that's
Maybe to rescue Sansa. I don't know.
yeah, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Well, I don't remember what the name of the Targaryen princess it was, but she flew her dragon to
Oh
the
yeah.
Eyrie and let the young lord like go for a ride on one of her dragons, where like everyone thought like she was there to like maybe like burn it down, like she was able to kind of just like, like I could take this place without even trying, right? So like I'm gonna let your kid do a couple of rides and then you're gonna do what I want, everyone's gonna live, like, and that's that. And that would be like another really good kind of like tie in to what you're talking about.
And another thing that I just reminded about, because they talk about how way back before, I guess when the Targaryen queens gave the Starks like all that extra land, and I think it's called the Gift, is that region of
Mm-hmm.
the world. They talk about how three of those dragon riders tried to go beyond the wall, and the dragons just would not go. And that's another thing that I'm wondering about, because I don't know how the Night King. I mean, there isn't even a Night King in the books, and I
Right,
just don't
right.
know like what that whole storyline is going to go. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
What's
I mean,
stopping
that's
them?
right. I mean, I think that's too, it's so hard for me because so much of the show has kind of like implanted itself in my head where I start to kind of get plots kind of mixed up here and there. But for the most part, like there's really like a handful of like really interesting pieces that we've got from the sample chapters where I can kind of like get an idea of where things might be going. But I mean, is there even a chance that is there the possibility that some of the sample chapters might even change a little bit and make things a little bit different? So I mean, who knows? Like it could be like I could be way off in so many things, but yeah.
We haven't gotten any word about Cersei. We've had no chapters of her
Oh,
released.
forgot about Cersei.
Like, I have no idea where they're going. It's so confusing to me that she blew up basically the equivalent of the Vatican, and nobody did anything about it. And then outfitted everyone with black clothes to show that she's evil now, even though she's always been
Yeah.
evil. Like, oh my gosh. And the
I
whole White Hunt, bringing a white from thousands of miles away to show Cersei, to convince her. And I'm like, it's Cersei. She doesn't
mhm.
care. Like, just kill her and just take over.
I
And
want to know what happens to Marjorie.
oh yeah, she's not dead yet. I thought
Mm-mm.
her brother, like, he's wounded apparently, like in
Yeah.
a high garden. And apparently, we're
Hmm.
gonna get a lot of high gardens this coming book, is what
That's
George said.
exciting. That's exciting. I feel like too, I mean, Dance was so full of plot points that felt very kind of removed from like our main characters that we'd spent a lot of time with. So I feel like a lot of like the King's Landing stuff is still like very hazy in my head because I feel like it's been so long since I've really like spent a lot of time with them.
I, I just remembered one character that I totally forgot about, and he's one of my favorites. The Onion Knight, Davos. He's going to
Davos.
Skellige or whatever that island is,
Yeah.
with killer unicorns and all of
Yes.
those, and
Skagos. Is it
Skagos.
Skagos?
Okay, I'm thinking
Yes.
of The Witcher, Skellige, which is a similar sounding island. But Rickon right now is just hanging out there with the Mandaleys,
Yes.
and I'm like the show didn't even touch any of that, so we're
Yeah.
completely hazy or blind to what's going to happen there. I mean, I don't think
We,
they're holding him hostage like they were on the show. That's
we have no idea as well. Like, it's been so long since we've seen Rickon. Like,
since book
I
two.
feel like, yeah, yeah, I mean, who is he growing into? Has he become even more animalistic? Like, because I remember like that was kind of like he was just kind of a angry child. I mean, obviously, look at his life, but
Yeah.
he was kind of just ruled by emotion, it felt like, and maybe some anger. So it's like, who has he become now that he's, so many years older? Like, what is his storyline going to be like? Is there any chance that Davos is going to cross paths with him and somehow this become a new plot line for Winterfell? I mean, everyone's trying to get Winterfell back, it feels like. Stannis wants it. Jon is invested in it. Um, Arya, we don't really know like what if she's gonna hang out in the House of the Undying for a little bit longer. We don't know if she's headed back anytime soon. Littlefinger is very, very interested in propping Sansa up and somehow becoming important and maybe ruling Winterfell. Like, this is a really interesting location for so many characters, and I just have no clue how or who is going to end up there first, who's going to get it, who's going to gain control of it. Like, no clue.
And there's one piece of when Rickon, Bran, and Hoda leave, and I guess Mira and Jojen, when King's Landing, or not King, Winterfell is sacked by Theon and everyone
Yeah.
else. There's like a weird mystery that is still like there's no confirmation on, but I think Summer sees like a dragon leaving Winterfell after it's sacked. It talks about a great winged beast like hidden among the smoke, like flying away.
Okay.
And there's theories that there is like a dead dragon or even a living dragon underneath Winterfell because they don't know why it's still like heated, why
Mm-hmm.
Winterfell has like such great water like temperatures and all of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I that's always been my theory is that there is a dragon beneath Winterfell. And I don't like the whole like a Stark must stay in Winterfell thing where people say, "Oh, it's because to keep the dragon there." I'm like, no, I think Ned just meant like there has to be someone there to rule. That's within the
Mm-hmm.
family. He did not know about this dragon. Like I think the Night King is going to come and resurrect that dragon and destroy Winterfell, and they all have to run away. And
Ooh, that would be interesting.
that's always
That
been
would
my
be
that's how he
interesting.
gets his dragon. I think, not
My
Daenerys.
theory, my theory is just very boring that it really is just like heated water down there. Like that's it. Boring.
I try to
Uh,
throw in as much magic as I can.
See, okay, like I like as much I like when I definitely like when it's included into the story, but I also subscribe to the fact that most of the magic isn't really magic and it's just like different types of lost like technology or something, like the glass candles being like cell phone or something.
Yeah, and they didn't touch that at all. I want to see what the glass candles are used for
Yeah.
in terms of the
Yeah.
story, or whether they'll just be like a weird thing that's mentioned a few times. But Jaqen is like going for it. Like he really wants a
Yes.
glass candle, and I want to know why. And I want to know what's happening in Ashai. I mean, George is very insistent that we'll never see it, but I think we'll see it. I think we'll see something
Okay.
with Ashai.
That's beyond like um I'm trying to think of the map. That's like on the other side, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and like a volcano exploded, which
Hmm.
people say is kind of the birthplace of the Targaryens. Is that they were harvesting like dragon eggs or something as slaves, and no, the Faceless Men started that way, And then there's a theory that the Faceless Men helped form the Targaryens by giving them like some sort of thing. I don't know. It's been like 8 years since I've read the
Yeah.
theories, but there's a. I really want more details on Ashai.
I'm trying to think if I know there was a question that I wanted to ask you earlier, but I totally forgot about it. I'm sure it'll come back if I start thinking about something else. But we talked about Dorne. We talked about north of the north of the wall, the Eyrie, Winterfell, King's Landing, Meereen, a little bit about Meereen. Oh, okay. We didn't talk about Dany at all and like what's
Oh,
going on with her. And okay, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a really long time. So is she had taken off on, I think, Drogon after Drogon, he saved her, I think, again from something. Is that right?
yeah, she was in the gladiator ring, and
Okay,
then
yes,
Drogon rescues her, drops her off in the Dothraki Sea,
right.
and I don't think
He
she's with the Dothraki yet.
She no, I don't think so, but I think like it's alluded to like they're on their way or something.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm really curious. I think that there's going to be something having to do with the Dosh Colleen, like collecting her and her having to escape somehow. I didn't really like how they did it in the TV show, but I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. But when she gets back to Marine, it's going to be like chaos. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to be, she's going to walk into a war basically that, um, what's her knight's name again? Um,
oh, Dario.
Dario. Yeah. He's going to be there.
Oh, Jorah Mormont.
Jorah's gone, isn't he?
He is with
Oh,
Tyrion.
yes. Oh my God, we didn't talk about Tyrion either.
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know like what scenario she's going to be walking into, or if she kind of just like moves on, but I can't see her like leaving Melisandre or Melisandre behind
Missandei.
like that. Masande, yeah, thank you. Um, and I feel like they'll have to wrap something up between her and Dario. Yeah, but I forgot that Tyrion and Jorah are together, and that's like such a odd couple like combination where I remember like it's I don't know like it's not they're not cheerful chapters by any means, but I think that combination of characters was really fun.
I love Tyrion's arc in the books a lot more than what he became in the show. Because in the books, he's a straight villain. I mean,
Yeah.
George has said many times that he's like just a villain at this point, and he's out for blood for Cersei
Yeah.
because of all the shit she did to him. And one thing I've always liked about, I guess, Danny's chapters is that there's a lot of foreshadowing with the Dosh Colleen because there's
Hmm.
that one classic line in the first book, which I coincidentally have in my hand right here. My very old, more than a decade old, with many
Hmm.
underlines of foreshadowing because I thought it was coming soon. But there's one line in like one of her first chapters where she's in the Dosh Colleen, and it says, uh, "The Dosh Colleen can gather every Khan or Khal in the entire world, and it can fit them all." And I was like, "That's a straight hint. That's a punching you in the face with what is going to end up happening. I think for
So what do
Danny,
you think is going to happen?
I think she's gonna show up with Drogon because Drogon is a bit smaller than the show. I mean, he was doubling in size every season. It felt
Yeah.
like, but in the books, he's just big enough to be a threat, and I think she's going to somehow unite the Culls together. I don't know how, because in the show she's like just giving the same speech like 5 times, like in an
Hmm.
episode. And I was like, okay, now they're all with her. And one of her final lines in the book with her chapters is that she's like, I'm embracing my Targaryen stuff. And she even has a miscarriage, I believe, in her final chapter. And so that's supposed to show, like, oh, like prophecy is being fulfilled because she can have children again. And
Yeah, she like ate some poisonous stuff and she's having all types of issues. So,
yeah,
yeah.
and I really can't wait for her to embrace the fire and blood within her because she's just not gonna hang around Miraine anymore. I never really liked that plot line, but ever since reading that essay that George himself approves of, kind of talking about the importance of Miraine, which is her kind of learning how to rule and
Hmm.
showing, what to do. Ever since reading that essay, I've been a lot more appreciative of that plot line because I've been like, and it's funny to think about now because I'm a big fan of the political arcs now in books, and I mean everyone hates the slog, but I loved all the political aspects.
Hmm.
And there's a book called The Goblin Emperor where it's a guy sitting on the throne for the entire book making political decisions and having to think out each decision and the ramifications and all of that. And so I think when I reread the series, I'll actually appreciate it a lot more. So that'll be really fun to kind of see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with Marine, it obviously is very important to George and to Danny. Otherwise, we wouldn't have waited so much time there. I
Yeah,
mean, you don't want a certain plot point to go on and on and on, but I feel like as far as like the way that George writes, like he wouldn't spend that much time there if he didn't feel like it was absolutely 100% necessary. Because I mean, he has other characters that we jump around from. So, yeah, we're giving Danny that time to learn to become a ruler. But I, so, okay. Do you think that the whole way that the television show ended with the bells and King's Landing and all that, do you see that as probably most likely being between Danny and Aegon?
oh yeah,
Like, okay.
that's that's a given to me. So I remember when that happened in the show, I looked like on Reddit and everyone was like, okay, now it's very obvious that Cersei isn't even supposed to be here, like in King's Landing by this point, because if you factor in Aegon, it makes so much more sense. And if you have John Connington there too, kind of on the, I guess, fields fighting Dany's forces, the Dothraki, I guess, and he starts hearing those bells, I mean, I think he's going to be the one who is given like a emergency plan, like light all of the, oh my gosh, black fire or white fire under King's Landing. If
Yeah.
Danny starts to like win the battle, go and light it. And if he hears the bells and thinks, "Oh no, like we have to go and light the white fire," what is it called?
I keep wanting to say
Green fire,
balefire.
Velfire, um,
Wildfire. Is it what?
wildfire. Yeah. Um, I feel like there's gonna be some sort of plan by Aegon, like, "Hey, John Connington, go and light the wildfire if she starts gaining ground, because if I can't have King's Landing, nobody can." And I think Daenerys is gonna fly in and light it herself, and that's where she's gonna go crazy because she didn't know about the bombs underneath King's Landing. And I really thought they were going to do that on the show. I mean, there's that flashback in season 3, I think, or the vision by Bran where you see a dragon flying over King's Landing. And I thought that was like going to be the moment before she lights it, because Daenerys in the House of the Undying walks in to the throne room and it's covered in ice and ash. And I always thought the King's Landing would be the final battleground for the White Walkers versus the troop, and that they would have to light King's Landing up, either through killing the Night King that way or stopping Daenerys from taking it. Something, I don't know.
I definitely saw the army of the undead dead coming, making it a lot further
They don't get killed out in
south.
the very first city.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my idea, I think I've told you about it before, was that somehow it would converge towards the Reeds land.
Oh
And
yeah.
so we end up having like, we've had a battle, we're having like a battle for ice, a battle of fire, a battle of blood in the water. So like I thought another cool location would be like a battle of like the swamps, because these undead creatures, I mean, everything that they, is this too loud? Can you hear this
Oh, I can't hear
outside?
anything. No.
Okay, sorry. My neighbors are decided to start drilling again. Um, so the whites bring the weather. It feels like they make things colder. They bring like the storm with them. And so I thought like just getting the visuals of this like zombie horde making its way through swamps and everything kind of like freezing and misty, and them kind of like getting stuck there would be really interesting. And then we could have the Reeds show up and some type of anything introduction to Howland. I don't know if it's necessarily has to be him or someone that knows about his history and that can explain it to the reader, the audience. But I think this would be like a good location for more of the armies to kind of like come together. And I think it'll be like further on towards the very end of the series, because obviously, if they've made it that far, like books have to be ending some point around there, anyways. But it could be like another one of these strategic points where you kind of like are able to incapacitate them somehow via like them getting frozen in the swamps. And then the Reeds, coming out with their frog spears and everything would just be really cool. And then I don't know, having some of the Southern armies maybe come north to help, perhaps Jamie, maybe like having any type of turn of heart. I don't know. Um, yeah, we didn't talk about Jamie either.
With I'm trying to think any last thing with the Reeds. I think they'll be very important because there's one area that George slipped up on, saying that it's very important for the final like end events of Dream of Spring, called the God's Eye, which is in history that's where the children of the forest came together with the I guess the original invaders or colonizers of Westeros. That's where they came together and made an agreement. And I think a similar agreement will happen between Bran, Howland Reed, and even the White Walkers or the others. I don't think they're really evil, and George has said so himself that they're not evil. And I don't think they're mindless, things from the show. I thought season 5, Hardhome, was the best representation of the White Walkers because you
Agreed.
can tell there's something more to them when
Agreed.
they're just staring down Jon Snow. It's like they could freeze the ice and go get him like right now, but they let him go, and
Yes.
nothing else beyond that was good in my opinion with the White Walkers. But I think the
I
God's Eye is very important.
to the Battle of the Bastards. I don't know. I know like some people love that episode, but it didn't make a lot of sense to me.
I did
So
not like it at all. And I don't think I've ever told anyone that because I think everybody does love it. And I'm like, why? Like, sure, it's
it's
nice cinema, but no.
it's like
Like,
pop culture now. Like everybody knows that episode, but I think too like some of the political like Sansa not telling John that the Vale army, I mean, like, oh yeah, like just kill most of your military. I mean, sure, why not?
and
Yeah.
and the whole geography of it doesn't even make sense because they have to get past, not have I think Harrenhal and the crossing of the Trends. They're like similar location, but there's a giant like
Okay.
river bisecting Westeros, and the Vale is to
Oh,
the south.
Caitlin, maybe.
Yeah, Moat Caitlin, and I think Stannis's army is there. Like maybe I'm mixing
There,
it up, but
Stannis's army is I mean, they've been trudging towards Winterfell for a while now. And I don't remember exactly where they are located, but I know it's close-ish. Like they've been making their way there. But I mean, they're just getting frozen out. Like their men are eating their shoe leather and dead horses and stuff like that.
and I hope the night lamp theory comes true, where they're drilling the holes and they all fall
Yeah.
in. Like I loved
Yeah.
that theory when I first read it way back in like 2012. But trying to think, I think with Jamie, just to move on to him, I have no idea because he's already made the turn. I mean, he burned Cersei's letter when she was
Yeah.
begging him to like help her, and oh my god, I cannot stand what happened with Jamie in the final season. How he goes
Sacrilege.
back, pure sacrilege in my opinion. Like, oh, I never liked them anyways. Like hearing that line just broke like my brain, and I was like, you killed your king to save the citizens. Like it was so stupid. But George has said that he said that Jamie before I guess Lady Snowheart or Stoneheart was gonna hang Brienne and Jamie and Podrick. Podrick is still around. I forgot about him, but it was like sword or noose or something. And George has confirmed that he said sword, so now he has to go do whatever Lady Stoneheart wants. And I have no idea what he's going to be doing. I somewhere down the line, Lady Stoneheart is going to kill every Frey in Red Wedding 2. And it's going to be terrifying. It's not going to be a yas bitch kind of moment, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
it's very terrible. I think Arya has to eventually kill Lady Stoneheart and put aside her killer, I
Mm.
guess, instincts and kind of realize, oh shit, like, I'm just like my undead mother. Like, I do not want to be pursuing this. I think that's the perfect end to that phase of Arya's life, and then after that, she can go help with the White Walkers and everything like that. But I think she does have to kill Lady Stoneheart. There's no
I
other
think that
way.
would be a good way to make like the full circle. Like you don't want to become this. You don't want to be driven by revenge, which is pretty much Arya's entire plot. Like I feel like this is why she is wanting to pursue this training because if she becomes as hard and like battle hardened as possible and she won't have to be in a position where she's weak ever again and she can go and take out everyone that's on her list. So yeah.
I can't believe what happened to Arya on the show. I know a killer when I see one. My brain broke at that moment. I could not stop laughing. Like there were tears in my eyes with how hard I was laughing. And even my dad, because we were watching it together, he wanted to watch the show, and I was like, I really don't want to at all. And he was like, no, we're watching it. I was like, okay, fine. And I remember, like, within the first 2 episodes, my dad was like, there's something off. Like, there's something off here. Because he read a little bit of book one. But I remember when that moment happened, something broke. Because by that point, I had given up that they were anything close. But just hearing her say that and Jon Snow saying nothing about that, I was like, you should be making fun of her to her face right now.
It's stressing me out thinking about it.
Like, I knew that the final season was going to be bad because season 7, everyone's like, oh, they're getting it done so we can get to the good stuff. And I was like, there is nothing left. And the entire series ended on the donkey joke that they talked about in season 1. And that was the final line of the show, not, something big and dramatic. I hate that final episode. But we can. Is there anyone else?
Oh, I'm sure there's tons of people,
Robert
but
Strong.
yeah,
Hound versus his brother.
Hound. I always was interested in the not kiss between Sansa's like false memory
Oh
of
yeah.
her and the Hound and what happens when she leaves or when he leaves. But that's really interesting, like just kind of unreliable narrator type of situation. But I mean, I feel like at some point Sansa and the Hound have to like converge. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, there's some, I don't know. I feel like there has to be some type of plot point between these two that was important or will be important because she's lost her lady was killed, so she doesn't have her wolf anymore. So like, and he's off on the quiet isle, right?
Yep.
Like digging crosses and putting crosses in the ground or doing whatever he's doing. And then, oh yeah, I see now this is, I'm starting to get it mixed up a little bit with the show again, but I don't remember if he hasn't left yet. He's the grave digger, right?
Yeah, he's a gravedigger, and someone else has the Hound's helmet. Whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or some, is it one of the Brotherhood Without Banners? Did they have his helmet?
Yeah, they do. I think there's a POV with Jamie. He sees, or Brienne. She thinks she's fighting the Hound, and then she takes off his helmet, and it's the one of the weird guys.
Or
Yeah,
somebody.
Horge the Biter. Ugh. He
Yeah.
bites her cheek off in the final chapter. Like, ugh.
Oh God, I forgot about that. That was one of the parts in the book that got me where I was like, ooh.
Like, imagine someone just chewing on you. Like, ugh.
Mm,
It's different from a
mm.
zombie because a zombie, like, okay, but someone chose to bite her in the face.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. There was one point. I kind of hope that the Hound doesn't come back. I think that's a perfect end to his
Yeah.
character because
I
he's
wouldn't
just
be
at peace.
surprised.
But because I didn't like how they brought him back in the show and just became snarky sidekick for Arya. I mean, I liked the Bastard Bowl or whatever they called it.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a
The
huge
game
me.
ball. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like a neat moment, but I hope it doesn't happen on the books.
I think the Hound is one of those characters where I would like to see some type of repentance and some type of like, okay, like, doesn't have to be a happy ending, but just something to where he's had like some type of character progression, whether that's staying on the island and, you know, digging graves and doing his thing, that's fine. But I also feel like he's kind of like considered himself cowardly, like inner on the inside, his entire like storyline, because he's afraid of fire, and he's the only person that's ever really been able to like stand up to his brother, who's the biggest, baddest, scariest dude who is now a zombie. But I feel like he deserves some type of ending, whether it's doing something completely good for someone and like dying that way, or just fading off into the sunset somewhere, like okay with who he is. But just because I'm a fan of the Hound, like I definitely want more. He was one of my favorite characters in the beginning of the books because he's so like hateable at first when he's killing Micah, the butcher's
Yep.
boy. And I'm like, oh, this guy is terrible. But then, like, all the lessons he's giving Arya, where it's like, okay, like, he's not, is he like rounding a corner a little bit? Like, what's going on with him? And yeah, I would love to see some type of full circle for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just to go back to the Vel rescue plot line that I was kind of predicting of the Vels
Yeah.
coming. Maybe he gangs up with the clans down below and helps them
Ooh.
storm. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a good, I mean, this would be a good place for him to run into Sansa, especially if, I mean, especially because he can identify her. Like, if he sees her, he will know immediately that's Sansa Stark. But right now, she's has the dark hair, and it's questionable whether or not she's been figured out yet by the Royce girl. No, not Mira. Miranda,
I
maybe.
think so.
One of the Royce girls that she's spending time with might possibly know who Sansa is. But I think something wild is going to go down in this tourney for the Vale. I mean, like you said too, the clans down there, like there's potential for them to like show back up and wreak havoc somehow. Like, I don't know. It's exciting though. And it's like very politically charged because Littlefinger and all of his manipulating is always like effortlessly intriguing.
And apparently, I don't know what else there is to talk about, but one thing that always kind of excited me was that George has talked about how we're going to go farther north than we've ever had. And I've always wanted to see like a civilization of like others, like way into the lands of always winter, I think it's called. And Hardhome has already happened in the books. It just happened off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of hope that John now with his undead capabilities, he just can't
Oh,
die. And so maybe he'll go searching for Benjen himself because he doesn't need food, he doesn't need water, he can just keep walking.
he
And
won't freeze. I
yeah.
mean,
And who is Cold Hands? I just remember I have been remembering and misremembering him this whole time. I want to know who Cold Hands is, and George has already confirmed he is not Benjen. He has very
yeah,
specifically said that. I think his
I had
editor
always
asked him, and he was like, "Hell no!" Like in big red pen, underlined, circled, everything.
no.
He was like, "No, that is not
I always
Benjen."
thought it was him. Like, that's who, like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, has to be Benjamin.
Yeah. And if it's not, then what is Benjen? And
Right, right.
maybe they're trying to, because on the show, the way that they made the Night King is that they took a stock and turned him into a White Walker using dragon glass and his
Hmm.
warging ability. And that's kind of how he's able to control the zombies, that he wargs into the bodies and this, that, and the other. And I always thought that Benjen may be the Night King and that they're going to
Okay,
use him to turn him into the Night King. And that's going to be a big WTF for everybody.
I like that. I mean, anything other than Benjamin, what happened to him on the show is better than, you
Take my
know,
horse that can carry two of us.
right. Like, I, I got nothing. I got nothing. Speechless.
We haven't seen him since book one. There's been no word. I mean, in the early book two chapters with John, he's like, "Where's Benjen?" And everyone's like, "Oh, he's dead. Like, there's no way he's survived this long." And he's not at Mance Raider's place. And we haven't really gone north since then, since book three. So
Mm-mm.
we get the dead things in the water letter, and that's about it. Because John sends Tormund, Giantsbane, and a bunch of other uh, what do they call them?
Wildlings.
Wildlings? Yeah.
Hmm.
And he sent them along to Hardhome because he was like, that's kind of the last major settlement of wildlings.
Right.
Go get them. And nobody came back except like a letter from like a raven. And it was like dead things in the water, dead things in the forest.
So cool. That's so cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I love how like these books intertwine like politics, mythology, mysticism, magic, just like it's all wrapped up there. And I don't know, like, there's a reason why I think people are so angry that we haven't gotten Winds of Winter yet, because like people are so invested. Like, I know I am. I know that if we get an announcement like, yeah, Winds is coming this date, I will be dropping every book that I'm reading and like backtracking and going through all of A Song of Ice and Fire just to like prepare for it. But I mean, just talking to you right now, like, it's just reminding me of like how many things that I had forgotten about and how like many more there are. So like we've touched on just like a handful of things, but I feel like there's so much going on in these books where it's like I don't know if he does it. Like if George does it and we get some type of announcement in the next year or two, like yeah, that's it for me. Like, I will be in a bunker somewhere, not looking online, trying to hide from any spoilers, and just like barricading myself somewhere
Yeah.
to read it.
Well, there's the whole question because on one of the podcasts that he was invited on sometime this week, like Monday or Tuesday, he talked about how this book isn't even like 5 to 10 pages longer. It's 300 pages longer than A Dance with Dragons, which at
Like,
the
it'll
time was impossible to bind.
right.
And I want him to not cut out anything because I think that's one of the huge issues.
Put out two books. Two
Yeah,
books.
and that's what they do with Memory, Sorrow, Thorn. Is that the final book is like 2,000 pages, I think, or it's 1,600 pages, and they split it into two 800 pages books and release them both at the same time. And George has
That's the
entertained
way.
that that might happen with the
Yeah.
Winter Winter because it's just so long, and he's described it as 32 novels basically, the Winter Winter, and I just don't know like
I
and
mean, it makes me giddy, like just thinking about it. Like, yeah, more. Yes, two books.
I would pay $50 easily for that.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he should know that everyone will pay however or however much. Like,
Right. I mean, yeah.
I have no idea what. I just thought of him, of the blacksmith guy,
Gendry.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
I. Where's he at? Like, that's another loose end that I have
I've
nothing
totally
on.
forgotten where he is at in the books.
Last we saw him was with Arya. No, the Brotherhood without banners has him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He's rowing. No, I don't know. That was a TV
Still
show.
rowing. Blinks
Still
at the
rowing?
camera. Like, oh my god. It's just rubbing salt into my wounds.
Mm.
Oh, he was in King's
Yeah.
Landing the whole time. Says he didn't know that? He would have killed him so fast.
Yeah, there's so many potential for like big twists. And too, like we might get some new characters. I mean,
He said there's more
I,
people coming.
yeah,
And I just don't know
I
who. Like, everyone's supposed to
yeah,
be dying because of winter. Who's left?
I would I would expect maybe I don't know, maybe a new POV from one of the Citadel, from one of the Maesters at the Citadel, maybe, or it's someone under the guise of like a new identity. So like we'll have this person's POV chapter and it'll be someone like incognito as someone else is always a possibility. Um
Well, the thing with that is that George won't do any new POVs. He's already said that, which is. I wish he would. Just kill a lot of them so you can have new ones. But
okay, okay. So then that kind of narrows it down more.
and for the prologue, he has said that Jane Poole is involved with it, and
Okay.
I think that's when Lady Stoneheart. I keep on saying Snowheart. Lady Stoneheart is going to come in and grab Jane Poole.
Jane Poole is pretending to be Arya, correct?
Yes, and she got out with Theon, and I think Stannis sent her off somewhere.
She's lost the tip of her nose to frostbite, I think. And I think they're still with Stannis or in the process of Stannis sending her to John.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's so much.
It really
Theon,
is.
like I don't know what's gonna happen with Theon. I think he'll
He's either
die.
gonna get burned alive, like he's gonna become Stannis' sacrifice, possibly. But I don't think Stannis is that stupid. Like Theon's like a really important hostage for him, I feel
Especially
like.
for the
So
Starks, it buys him goodwill if he takes Theon and gives them to Sansa. I guess when
right,
Sansa arrives at Winterfell.
right. Yeah. That and like I think Theon can provide important information about Ramsay as well. So like he's been with him for that long amount of time, but I don't know, like his chapters are so hard because he's so gone, like he's just lost and it's like it's hard to read because it's painful,
Yeah,
like you go through the full range of emotions like F you, Theon Greyjoy, where it's like you got what's coming to you, and then it's like, oh no, oh no, oh, like it just gets worse and worse, and
yeah.
now you just pity him, and I don't know. I hope there's some type of redemption for him in the future. I don't know if that'll happen, but I don't know.
That's another death in the show I did not like. Sacrificing
Yeah,
himself to the Night King.
that didn't even make any. I
I remember going to class the day after that episode aired, and everyone was like, dude, wasn't that so awesome? And I'm like, just holding my ears in the class because they were like, Arya's such a badass in the show. And I'm like, shut up. You don't know nothing.
I I remember oh my gosh. Like, yeah, yeah. That was so hard. That was so hard. I
I
mean,
had to really hold myself back for like half a year as the show was finishing and just
still
not
haven't
rain on
rewatched
anyone's.
I haven't rewatched a single episode. Like, I haven't been able to. Like, it's traumatic.
I got rid of all my Blu-rays of the show.
Did you?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not ever gonna watch this again. Like, and I always tell people because there's a few people out there who still haven't seen it or don't know what happens, and I
Hmm.
tell them like, just finish at season 4. Pretend like it got canceled by the studio. Just watch up
Yeah.
to season 4. I mean, the fact that Arya just leaves after spending so much time trying to get back, and she's like, "Nah, I'm gonna go off and see what's west." And it's like, okay, well, setting up for a sequel series, and I guess that brings up the whole Jon Snow sequels. I don't know what's gonna happen there, and George says it's not his idea; it was Kit Harington's idea to make the show. So I don't know what.
Well, I mean, I wish Kit the best. Like, I hope it's good.
Yeah,
I'm probably not, like, I'm not immediately drawn to it, but I mean, I don't know, it can't be any worse than season 8. Like,
I
maybe
mean,
it's better than it.
they're gonna have different showrunners. I mean, even for House of the Dragon,
I'm
which
picturing it like a sitcom for Christ's sake. Like, I don't know why. Like, I can't get like the I
it's
don't
like those
know.
shows where they have an ensemble cast and it ends, and they're
Mhm.
like, "We're gonna follow this guy," and it's like no one cares anymore, and it's like they can't hold it up on their own, which Kit may be able to. I don't know, but
I
I mean, they're
don't
not
know.
gonna try and do a finishing story for him. I don't think like they're redoing the final season like Dexter did with their new season, which I never saw and I don't care enough to watch. But
Right. Like, I feel like it's there's potential there to like, how is he gonna, I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna be able to do it. Excuse me, hold on. I don't know how they're gonna be able to do it where it's not creating more questions for the series. I mean, like, are all the White Walkers gone now because they killed the Night King? So he's just hanging out north of the wall, like doing what? Are there any, wildings left back there? Because that was their whole thing. They wanted to come south, so, or north, south. They wanted to come south. So, like, what's he doing? I don't know. Does
I will
it?
say it was my favorite ending out of all the characters. I think it makes total sense for him to leave because I mean he's a Targaryen. I don't think he wants. I don't want it. I don't think he wants to be a ruler in any sort of way in the books because he's always just wanted to be home. And to him, home is so gone now. And the only time he was ever happy was with Egret. And he's just going to go back to where he was happy. And that's north of the wall. And I thought that was the best ending. And now they're doing the sequel series. And I'm like, no, don't undo the only great thing I thought of the final season. Like, I don't.
I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but I thought, like, at the beginning when George was first starting the books, like, the pairing was supposed to be like Arya ending up with Jon Snow.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, that's probably going to change because reasons, but I mean, I don't know where I don't know where you can take his story.
I'm trying to think anything. Because Bloodraven is dead. I mean, not in the books. But I think he. I don't know what's happening with Bloodraven. I think he'll be killed in some way, but I don't like Cold Hands can't die. Like, how does Cold Hands factor into the overall story? Like, I have no
Right. And
idea.
is John, I mean, is he still a warg after being respawned? Like, can he, Like, is he still connected to Ghost? I mean,
Well, that's what I love about the prologue to A Dance with Dragons is that it lays out all of the mechanics to how John is going to come back. Because it talks about how if you keep a warg's mind in his animal, then the
he
memory loss and all that is like lessened.
mm-hmm.
And so I think he's just going to hang out in Ghost for a while and then come back and be just vengeful enough to where he doesn't care anymore. And I think he would rather go north than go south and go get Bran. I've always felt
Yeah,
that way. I didn't like
like
the show and what they did with him going south.
I don't know. I don't know. Like it, like I said, there's nothing inside of me where I'm like I have to watch that. If it's on and I'm, bored, can't sleep, I'll probably turn it on, but there's nothing too like interesting to me about it to where like I don't think it'll answer any of these big questions that I have about the series. And I think that's kind of the main point why I like the series. Like Azor Ahai, what's the deal with all the prophecy? Is all the prophecy just crap and it doesn't mean anything and everyone is wrong? But at least, have to finish it somehow. Like you have to answer those big questions. And
Was Quaith.
Faith, what's going on with her? She's coming back.
George has confirmed she's coming back eventually.
Yeah.
In what capacity? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I think like trying to think if there was anything else that I had like thought about before wanting to sit down with you. I'm sure like tomorrow I'll be like, I didn't bring that up. Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think anything else, but I can't.
I think I'm like,
The Children of the
yeah,
Forest. I don't think
yeah.
there's a lot more of them in the books and the way in the show. There was just that one. Leaf, I think her name is. It was
Yeah.
Leaf and Bloodraven was it on the show,
hmm
and we did get a flashback of like more of them, but
I think the children will be like kind of like baddies.
I think they're gonna be part of the God's Eye kind of final event that George accidentally talked about. I forgot when he did, but it was like in the 2000s, I think, when they were doing the big book above me.
Hmm
2013, I guess, is when he was writing that. And they talk
Gosh.
about the God's Eye and how important it is in history and how it's like the center place for wargs and children of the forest to make agreements. And I was like, is that a huge hint to us? Like about the end
I
of the series? Like,
could be. I feel like it should be. I mean, I think he likes to talk about the books to the point where, I mean, we've gotten so many of the sample chapters even as well. So it's like there's potential for him to change his mind. Like, obviously, he's free to do that, which wouldn't bother me about a lot of things. But at the same time, like sometimes I wonder like if he knows like when to stop talking, like if he's, like if he's giving us too much, or there's always the other side of me too where I'm like I want to know everything. So like, yes, please keep talking. Tell me more.
and that's kind of the funny thing with the latest updates is that he still hasn't mentioned John and him coming back, even though I feel like everybody knows he's coming. Like,
Yeah.
and I know everyone's going to open the table of contents when the book comes in and look for Jon Snow or anything hinting. And that's why
I'm
I'm
not
saying, like, don't have Jon Snow as a POV chapter anymore. He's dead. Let us build up a mystery of dread about, oh, there's something weird going on at the wall. Some new ruler who is
point. That's a good
bloodthirsty
point.
and, all of that. And I really hope he's like, I hope we get those few chapters of dread building up about the wall, and then we get that Melisandre chapter of her like explaining like how she sacrificed Shireen and
Hmm.
all this stuff because Stannis gave her a secret order like, oh, if anything horrible happens here, use Shireen. And I'm sure he meant like White Walker stuff, not resurrecting Jon. But
But yeah.
and she looks across the table and it's a half decomposed Jon Snow. Another point that they mentioned about the wall is that the cells can perfectly preserve a body, and they're
Yes.
definitely gonna
Yes.
throw Jon Snow into there. So decompose Jon wouldn't happen, but I think
Yeah, he's just solid.
I think he'll
Like,
just be eerily still because I mean his heart's not beating or anything. He'll just be like a statue standing there, and then
he doesn't blink.
he'll say like execute or something for like all the people who murdered him, and it's gonna be like scary. And I think Melisandre would be the main POV for the wall.
Yeah, I also want, I know this probably sounds silly, but I want like direct 100% confirmation who Aegon is. Like,
Oh yeah,
that needs to happen. Because I mean, he could change his mind, maybe. I don't know.
I do hope he is
Could.
a Targaryen because he is bald. They are purposely shaving his head down, so he's not like exposed to the world. Like, hey, here's a Targaryen just walking around. I really hope he is a real one because that's a great foil for Dany when she shows up. Oh, we already have a Targaryen here, and he's great. We love him. What? And she just
Yeah.
burns everything. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, oh, see, now I'm getting it like, okay. So what I meant too, besides who Aegon is, because in the show, John was Aegon. See, it's still
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
um mixed up, but I want like direct 100% confirmation that John is Rhaegar and Lyanna's child,
Yeah.
because I feel like that was one of the first like big mysteries of the series, and it has to either be proved yes or no at some point. Like, I don't feel like there's any need to drag it out any longer.
I really want his name to be Aemon instead of Aegon. I want
Yeah.
his like that would be a great callback because the beginning of the series we had him sparring with Robb Stark. And he says, "I
Mm-hmm.
am Aemon Targaryen," and he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, I'm this guy," and he's fighting. They're fighting each other on the courtyard. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's Aemon Targaryen at the wall, who's like really old now. Egg,
Yeah.
I dreamt I was
And
old, and
they
you know.
had, oh God, that broke me. That broke me. Um,
I think it would be great if his name was that, not Aegon. I did not like
yeah,
that, but I understood why they did it because they didn't have Aegon on the show. So
because yeah, and in the books, didn't Rhaegar already have a son named Aegon? So it'd be
yeah,
like, so it's like, this is my son Aegon, and this is my other son
Aegon the
Aegon.
Second. Although we don't have that
Yeah,
naming scheme in this world.
right, right. Yeah.
Like I, Aemon would be a perfect thing. I think it
Hmm.
like kind of has to happen at this point. Like some people say
Yeah.
Tyrion is a secret Targaryen, and I hope not, because there's the line by
No.
Tywin, "You're not my son." I think it's obvious
But
he
that,
doesn't love him. Like he
yeah,
doesn't view him
yeah.
as his son. That's it. Not because he's a Targaryen. Like
And two, like, I feel like a lot of the times in A Song of Ice and Fire, if something is stated out loud, like, you're not my son, that means you are my son. So like,
yeah,
if someone says like, this is my plan, then the plan's not going to work, or something happens. Like, I feel like if anything is kind of like laid out for us, then it usually kind of like takes a turn somewhere. So
best spell time
yeah.
ever.
Exactly. Exactly that.
Because yeah, I think Tyrion's the best. I guess reflection of Tywin. I mean, he
Yeah.
is the most Tywin of the kids. Because the others, I mean, Jamie's a great warrior, but I don't think he ever had the battle strategy because he was always the warrior. And then
Right.
Cersei has nothing really from Tywin. I mean, she thinks she does, but no.
Right.
It's
Maybe just the
Tyrion.
confidence.
Yeah. But okay. Anything else at all? Because I think
I
we've.
think, yeah, we might. I mean, at some point we could probably do like a part two, but for now, like, I think everything that I thought about, I've said. So, yeah.
Yeah, I even thought of more stuff throughout
Yeah,
that
me
I
too.
thought. So totally forgot
Me
about
too.
Gendry, Quaithe, the
Hmm.
Sand Snakes. I have nothing about them. I have no idea how they're gonna factor in. But thank you so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. I
Yeah,
haven't
thanks
even
for
talked
having me.
about this series in so long to this capacity.
It's been too long and I haven't had someone to like catch up with and just like get it all out of my system. So thank you very much.
Yep. And thank you everyone for watching. Uh, we'll be looking very closely at any more news. So,
Yes.
and thank you again for joining.